I'm Tracy Sabol. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, trouble in Asia. The South Korean president declares martial law for the first time in decades. We have the latest. Return to the world stage. President-elect Donald Trump is set to attend the reopening this weekend of one of the best-known Catholic cathedrals in the world. Pandemic lessons. A House Select Subcommittee releases its findings on the origins of COVID-19. Plus, oh, come let us adore him. An inside look at this year's Vatican nativity scene. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Francis Xavier. Our top story tonight, martial law is declared and then lifted in South Korea. The country's president announced it earlier today, accusing political opponents of anti-state activity. This was the chaotic scene earlier today. The South Korean army blocked members of parliament for entering the National Assembly building in Seoul. The country's president said it was for the good of the nation.
Through this martial law, I will rebuild and protect the Free Republic of Korea, which is falling into the depths of national ruin. I will decisively eliminate anti-state forces who have been wreaking havoc and are the main culprits of our nation's downfall.
Immediately following the president's announcement, the South Korean military proclaimed that parliament and all other political gatherings would be suspended. The South Korean leader accuses the opposition Democratic Party of sympathizing with communist North Korea. Parliament has voted to lift the declaration. Citizens say it came as a complete shock.
It was a very shocking news to all of South Koreans. Nobody expected it. Our journalists were actually informed around 9:30 p.m. that the president will make an announcement. And nobody knew that it was going to be a martial law thing. And when he was actually saying it, everybody was so shocked.
Well, after the vote from Parliament against the declaration, President Yoon lifted the order. But the question right now is on South Koreans' minds, why even was martial law declared in the first place?
I don't think probably not that many people in South Korea will believe him that these North Korean agents are actually, crumbling our society down to the, trash. We have rules of law, every institutions, do their jobs. So, not many Koreans will buy that argument. And, I'm really surprised that he actually brought that up because, yes, there's some elements in recent, investigations that there were some, North Korean agents playing in South Korean, major labor unions and so on. But, it could be contained. And, martial law is not going to be the answer.
The martial law order caught the Biden administration by surprise. South Korea is a strong ally of the U.S. and the State Department is monitoring the situation to make sure peace prevails.
We are watching the recent developments in the ROK with grave concern. We are seeking to engage with our Republic of Korea counterparts at every level, both here in the United States and in Seoul. The Secretary has been briefed, and we're keeping him appraised of the developments, as well as monitoring closely what's happening on the ground.
While South Korea President Yoon Suk-yeol has lifted the martial law order, it looks like that is not the end of the story. And now there are calls for Yoon to resign. And we'll be tracking all the developments as they happen. Meantime, back here in the United States, President Joe Biden is not taking any questions about his controversial pardon. He created fierce criticism when he broke his word and pardoned his son Hunter. There have been calls for the president to explain his reversal, but so far, he has not commented. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Tracy, good evening to you as President Joe Biden travels to Angola tonight. So far, mum's the word on that recent pardon. Now, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters the president was not scheduled to take questions from the press during his 3-day trip to Africa.
As President Joe Biden was making his first presidential trip to Angola, a question shouted as he walks by.
Mr. President, why did you change your mind and pardon your son?
The fallout and backlash from his decision to offer his son a blanket pardon for actions over the past 11 years sparked a political uproar in Washington, drawing criticism from many, including from his own party.
I understand his instinct as a dad. I do. But when you're the commander-in-chief, there's something higher at stake, which is the Department of Justice, the system of justice that we have in America.
It just gives the American people a sense that there's one system for the rich and powerful and another system for everybody else.
The president repeatedly told the public he would not use his extraordinary powers for the benefit of his family members. Biden also claimed that his own Justice Department presided over a miscarriage of justice in prosecuting his son. But Trump-Vance transition advisor Jason Miller puts the blame back on Biden.
I think what we saw with Joe Biden and the Hunter pardon really goes to the heart of this politicization of our justice system, what we've seen over the past 4 years with Joe Biden.
President Biden is set to return to the United States Thursday. While in Angola, he also delivered remarks at the Angola National Museum of Slavery, remembering those brought to America's shores in chains, what he described as the evil of human bondage.
It's our duty to face our history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the whole truth. That's what great nations do.
Now, more on that pardon. Today, a federal judge dismissed the gun case against Hunter Biden. Days before he was set to be sentenced, he could have received up to 25 years, but as a first-time offender, likely would have gotten a lot less and perhaps no jail time at all. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, new developments in the civil war in Syria, where rebel insurgents have now captured 4 new towns and are drawing closer to a main city. The latest push in the 13-year-long war is part of a wide offensive by forces opposed to Syria's president. The rebels have captured large parts of the northern city of Aleppo. Government troops say that they have taken back some of the land that they lost last week. Amid the fighting, a Franciscan Holy Land monastery in Aleppo was bombed. No deaths nor injuries have been reported, but there is extensive damage to the building. A missile from a warplane set the monastery's storage facility on fire. Bad in Malaysia and southern Thailand, more than 30 people are dead amid severe floods caused by monsoon rains. Tens of thousands of people have been displaced, roads are damaged, and farmers have lost millions of dollars as rice fields are submerged. While more heavy rain is expected throughout the week, both countries are preparing shelters and evacuation plans. Well, some of President-elect Donald Trump's picks for cabinet posts are making the rounds with senators on Capitol Hill. Republicans are greeting them with confidence and optimism. Democrats, however, are casting a wary eye. All this in advance of confirmation hearings next month. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us now with the latest. Eric.
Well, good evening, Tracy. It is an age-old ritual up here on Capitol Hill. Whenever a new president is elected, cabinet members come up and they meet with senators on a variety of different committees. And these senators will ultimately decide their fate on whether or not they will be confirmed. So there's lots of security and a horde that is of reporters. Pam Bondi, who is nominated for U.S. Attorney General, she actually met with members of the Judiciary Committee, and she began her meetings with the upcoming chairman of the Judiciary Committee, that's Senator Chuck Grassley.
Should I earn the trust and the nomination from all of the senators, I will do my best every day to work tirelessly for the American people, and I will make you, the president, and our country proud.
Later in the day, she met with Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina.
She's a great choice, been a long-time friend. I think the right person at the right time. I look forward to next year.
Thank you, Senator.
Also on the Hill, Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth, a combat veteran.
What's the difference he's going to bring?
Somebody for the warfighter, somebody that's not for the upper echelon. He's to make the military stronger, better, better trained, put the money in the right spot.
Hegseth is under scrutiny after allegations of a sexual assault surfaced and new claims that he was drunk on multiple occasions while on the job as CEO of a veterans group. Hegseth denies those claims.
I mean, it's just absolutely embarrassing. And how, as a junior officer, would I be expected to keep discipline among the Marines in my platoon or whatever if we couldn't trust the discipline of the Secretary of Defense?
That he's publicly said that women shouldn't serve in combat roles, and that's just beyond the pale, and that's just disqualifying in and of itself and does a disservice to those women who every day stand up and fight and serve for us.
Senate Armed Services Committee member Dan Sullivan disagrees and tells me Trump's nominees should be confirmed.
Look, I think the whole combination of That nominee, Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, is, to me, a strong combination. They all focus on peace through strength, the lethality of our military.
It is important to note that it is standard practice to have the FBI do background checks on all cabinet nominees. And Democratic leadership actually said today that they don't want the Trump administration to bypass that process. But Republicans said, especially Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, they said today that they have enough personnel to do thorough investigations, and that is sufficient. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, House Select Subcommittee has released its final report on investigating the origins of COVID-19 and America's response. The 520-page report concluded that the coronavirus most likely came from a laboratory in Wuhan, China. The report cited factors like biological characteristics of the virus. The subcommittee also faulted the pandemic efforts of the World Health Organization, which placed the Chinese Communist Party's interests ahead of its mission to people around the world. It also said health officials and the Biden administration oversold the power of the vaccines to prevent transmission or infection. Well, the White House says Jill Biden will attend the much-awaited reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral on Saturday. The First Lady leaves today for a trip to Italy, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and France. Her visit to Notre Dame on Saturday is the last item on the itinerary. But President-elect Donald Trump will also attend the reopening of Notre Dame. Writing on his platform Truth Social, he says in part, quote, President Emmanuel Macron has done a wonderful job ensuring that Notre Dame has been restored to its full level of glory, and even more so. It will be a very special day for all. The French president was the first foreign leader to congratulate Trump on his re-election. Around 50 world leaders are expected to attend the reopening. EWTN will also have coverage from Paris as one of the world's most famous churches reopens after the devastating fire back in 2019. The estimated cost of repairs is around $760 million. U.S. bishops are inviting churches in the United States to mark the reopening of Notre Dame by ringing their bells. The Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception here in Washington, D.C., says it will ring its bells at 2 p.m. on Friday to mark the opening of the doors at Notre Dame. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including a push to reach an agreement on plastic pollution has failed, why negotiators could not reach an agreement, and what that could mean for the planet. Plus, sales of the Bible are up in the United States, why more people are turning to the Word of God. Welcome back. A new survey finds that many investors aren't so bullish when it comes to President-elect Donald Trump's plan on immigration. According to Goldman Sachs, only 6% of investors expect net immigration will turn negative under Trump. The vast majority believe more people will enter the U.S. than leave it. However, the survey also found that investors expect immigration will slow significantly during Trump's second term, and there is stock market skepticism about Elon Musk's promise to severely slash government spending. Well, speaking of Elon Musk, a Delaware court rejected a record-breaking pay package for the Tesla CEO. The package, now worth $56 billion, is made up of more than $300 million in Tesla stock options. The same judge threw it out in January as well, but in June it was approved again by shareholders. The judge noted that even Musk admitted that he negotiated against himself when it came to his own compensation. The car company says that it will appeal the ruling. Talks aimed at reducing plastic pollution on planet Earth have been suspended until next year. Negotiators met in South Korea hoping to produce a treaty that would address the issue. However, a deal could not be reached. Instead, they punted the issue until next year. In response to the news, the White House released this statement saying, in part, the United States is disappointed in the lack of a legally binding international agreement, and we are resolved to make more progress in the next stages of this negotiation. While the global movement to rein in the urgent threats of plastic waste in the environment has gained tremendous momentum, a small group of countries and producers stood in the way of progress to protect their profits and perpetuate an inadequate status quo. Now, joining us now with more is David Katz, founder and CEO of Plastic Bank. David, thank you so much for being with us today. First off, for those who are not familiar, tell us more about Plastic Bank and why you started it.
Well, Plastic Bank is a root solution to the degradation that we're seeing occurring in the ocean, the degradation occurring from discarded plastic, recognizing that most plastic is entering the ocean from areas of poverty, over 80%. We treat plastic as money that allows the populations to pay for everything from school tuition to medical insurance and gain zero interest loans using what others would have discarded or viewed as waste. We create as currency to stop the degradation from occurring to begin with. That's, in essence, Plastic Bank.
And give us an idea, really, of how big of an issue plastic waste is in the world and the overall impact on the environment.
Well, let's consider that all plastic that's ever been created is still here. And if anyone watching remembers a toy that they had when they were a child, it's still here in the earth somewhere. And really this definition of insanity, doing the same thing over again, expecting a different result, is really where we are. We continue to produce billions and billions and hundreds of billions of kilos of new plastic every year when the world is already awash with enough plastic to support all of humanity for the rest of time. And we wonder why we're having so much problem.
Yeah, and David, I want to turn back now to the meetings that we were talking about. What exactly were the negotiators? What were they trying to accomplish here?
Well, they're trying to find a unified voice for all of humanity that was to be able to create a condition where the materials were viewed differently, and that there was a treaty over around how much new material was going to be created, what the incentives for recycling were going to be, how it was going to be treated and handled, and just a voice around the material itself, which hasn't existed until now. And by no surprise, too many cooks in the kitchen, and nothing was decided.
Yeah, I was going to ask you why they were not able to reach an agreement. Were there certain sticking points that were maybe up in the air?
Oil-producing nations certainly are concerned about the limit of new plastic production. They're concerned about their population, their people, and creating an economic opportunity by extracting material from the ground and then turning that into plastic. Now, they certainly did not want to have a limit on how much plastic was being produced. But I, as who I am in this space, can say that the one thing that will actually help change this situation we're in is by reducing the amount of new plastic we make, creating a condition for more recycling to occur. David, it's a tragedy for all of humanity.
Yeah, and David, can you talk about the United States' role in these talks? And were the negotiations, were they focused really more on reducing plastic pollution or plastic production overall? Or was it a combination?
It's a combination of all things, but how will the material be handled? How do we view it? What will production quantities be? And how will it be handled or transported around the world? There are many issues that this united group was supposed to solve, but many of them got caught up in the logistics and the conversations and the terminology. It became a beautiful exercise in bureaucracy. And of course, with limited time, trying to agree on definition before we could agree on an outcome, really, it didn't provide the condition for anything to occur. I would express as well that nobody's coming anyhow. I mean, nobody's coming to save us. That is the truth of it all. The only people that are left are us. And we can be with what occurred and what didn't occur, but we also have to remember that we have power as an individual. And that anyone that is watching, anyone that is concerned, when you buy something, you vote for it. And so when you're buying something with virgin plastic production, that's what's going to continue occurring. So you can participate by making the right choices. We all have power. The only people who are coming are us.
All right, David, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, flying off the shelves, why the Bible is seeing a dramatic rise in sales this year. Plus, we get a sneak peek at this year's nativity scene at the Vatican. Learn why this one is so unique. report says that sales of the Bible in the United States are booming. According to the Wall Street Journal, there is a 22% jump in Bible sales this year. Publishers say the spike is due to rising anxiety and a search for hope. The surge is fueled by first-time buyers and new versions of the Bible. By contrast, total U.S. print sales are up by only 1%. Well, first there was Black Friday, then Cyber Monday, and now today it is Giving Tuesday, often described as a global generosity movement supporting nonprofits. And in case you're wondering, there are a lot of ways to support initiatives for the faithful, including one led by Catholic bishops. The hashtag #IGiveCatholic began in 2015. Thousands of parishes, schools, and nonprofits participate each year with a hope to inspire the faithful to support and show gratitude to their community and clergy. Last year, the initiative raised more than $20 million for 50 dioceses. So far this year, more than $12 million have been raised. And to learn more, visit iGiveCatholic.org. Well, the nativity scene is a reminder of the true meaning of Christmas. Pope Francis calls it a living gospel rising up from the pages of sacred scripture. This year, the Italian seaside town of Grado created the special display for St. Peter's Square. EWTN Vatican journalist Benedict Sidegren has more on its unveiling this Saturday.
Every year, the Pope invites an Italian town to bring together its artisans to create a nativity scene typical of the region in St. Peter's Square. This time, the ancient northern Italian fishing village of Grado will be featured. It took 40 volunteers to create it, and it had to travel 800 miles to its destination. And now, only 4 days remain until it is unveiled.
Grado è un'isoletta.
Grado is a small island situated between Venice and Trieste in the northern Adriatic. Its defining feature is its expansive lagoon, which we wanted to recreate here in St. Peter's Square. There will be the lagoon with water, small boats called batelle, and a cassone, a type of hut, where the nativity scene will be placed. There will also be many other elements that we can't reveal just yet.
The setting depicts scenes from the first years of the last century. It will be a detailed picture of the environment, highlighting indigenous vegetation and local bird life. The creation of the statues involved many artisans, such as hut makers, boat builders, fishermen, and artists. Getting it to St. Peter's Square was no small feat.
We designed a project in such a way that the elements could be assembled piece by piece, like Legos. The outer edge itself, where the water is, consists of 102 foam pieces. A lining goes inside, and together, these elements form the Grado Lagoon.
To fully recreate the atmosphere of the Grado Lagoon, the artisans have even brought 3D printed local birds and installed ultrasound devices to avoid the mass arrival of real seagulls. Now the work of the builders is coming to fruition. The traditional inauguration and illumination of the Great Nativity, as well as the 95-foot red fir Christmas tree, will happen in St. Peter's Square.
We conducted 2 rehearsals for the inauguration, and I was deeply moved, truly emotional, because it was such a spectacle. Behind it all is not just hard work, but also love and passion from everyone involved. It's been a unique experience, both touching and delightful. I have to thank Antonio for involving me in this adventure. I am truly happy.
In Rome, Benedict Sidegren, EWTN News Nightly.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night and God bless.